evening. It's 6 o'clock on Thursday, June 16th, 2016. Welcome and thank you for joining us tonight for the English edition of Aura News, where we bring you today's top stories translated into English every weeknight. The Appellate Court dismissed the decision of the First Instance Court and returned the State Police Director to his duty. He had been suspended from the office at the request of the prosecutor for abuse of power during the investigation for illegal phone tapping. The State Police Director was not present at the court's closed session. At the end of the session, his defense lawyer, deeming the First Instance Court's decision to be illegal, said, "The suspension of the State Police Director had no legal basis and there are no reasonable suspicions that the Director has committed a criminal offense." The Appellate Court rejected the First Instance Court's decision, which means the State Police Director can return to duty. The Appellate Court considered the decision illegal, stating that the procedures were not respected, said the defense lawyer. Regarding the phone tapping issue, the lawyer said that the investigation will continue and that it will determine whether phones have been tapped or not. There is an ongoing investigation which will specify if phones have been tapped or not, he said. A few minutes after the court's decision, the State Police Director showed up with the Minister of Interior. The Police Director did not speak, but the Minister of Interior declared that the state police are on the right path. "Our path to reformat the judicial system to guarantee integrity has just begun. Our path to guarantee equality before the law has just begun. Our path to modernize the state police has just begun. We are heading in the right direction. There are obstacles, difficulties, and sacrifices along the road, but each of them are a confirmation that we are on the right path. Any wound we take alongside the road make us stronger," said the Minister of Interior. The Tirana court suspended State Police Director on June 7th and ordered house arrest of 2 other police officials. The prosecution is accusing them of dereliction of duty for illegal tapping. Tirana's court downgraded the security measure for the mayor of Cavalla from imprisonment to house arrest. After the court session, Cavalla's mayor left his cell to move into his apartment in Cavalla. He posted on his Facebook account saying that he is innocent and believes the decriminalization law to be scandalous. The mayor of Cavalla was arrested for falsifying information on the decriminalization form. His defense lawyer was discontent about the court's decision and said that they will appeal it. Cavalla's mayor was arrested on June 13th at the request of the prosecution, which alleges that the mayor misrepresented information on the self-declaration form by not stating a rape conviction given by the Italian justice in 1995 or declaring his expulsion from Switzerland. Elvis Rossi was expelled and convicted by the Swiss justice in 1993 and in 1997 when he was also arrested. The Democratic Party chairman spoke against Prime Minister Edi Rama, accusing him of putting pressure on to return to the State Police Director to duty and to release the mayor of Cavalla. The DP chairman said that the country is going through critical days and that the Prime Minister is not allowing independent investigations of scandals. Mr. Basha also said that the opposition does not contest the court's decisions, but rather it denounces the intervention of the Prime Minister, which, according to the DP chairman, is criminal. Rama does not allow investigations because he is involved by tapping the opposition, the MPs, diplomats, and media representatives, said Basha. The DP chairman said that today's court decision shows the concept the Prime Minister has for justice, which is in direct clash with the citizens. The Socialist Movement for Integration asks the Democratic Party to ask Brussels for a clearer stance whether the EU is in line with the Venice Commission regarding the reserved seats for 4 justice institutions. I think the opposition should clearly ask the EU's highest institutions to give their opinion about the opposition's stance. Also, the opposition should find an acceptable solution with the majority about the only issue of disagreement that hampers consensus, said the chairman of the Socialist Movement for Integration Group. Vice SMI chairman mentioned the completion of 94 votes for the approval of the reform with individual votes for the first time, in case there is no consensus with the DP. But he urged Brussels to hold a clear position and tell if a unilateral voting of the reform will open negotiations for Albania's membership into the Union, noting that the Socialist Movement for Integration cannot vote on a reform unilaterally without such a guarantee, since it would create a problem without a way out. It's a major obligation of the EU's highest institutions to give us a guarantee if unilateral voting of the reform would bring the opening of negotiations for the EU membership, as this unilateral act would bring the interruption of the political dialogue, said Vasili, adding that the SMI is not against a referendum for this matter. The Democratic Party chairman has chosen to personally inform Albania's international ambassadors about the DP's position concerning the Venice Commission recommendation number 88 and the reserved seats. The meetings with the ambassadors come after the US and EU representatives in Albania showed their support of the draft that was adopted by the majority at the Ad Hoc Commission on Judicial Reform. It is learned that the DP chairman held the meetings in an effort to completely clarify the reason why the opposition insists on Venice recommendation. The Prime Minister declared yesterday that the internationals have asked for independence in vetting institutions. The Socialist Movement for Integration Group asked the Democratic Party chairman to ask the Brussels higher institutions to give a clearer stance regarding its requests. Ambassador Romana Vlahutin declared that it's difficult for the Albanian politicians to dialogue and that they mistakenly ask for a new social contract from the internationals. The ambassador urged the politicians to be oriented towards the future in the case they really want the new social contract with the citizens. Having had direct involvement in reform negotiations between the parties for the last year and a half, has convinced the EU ambassador that dialogue in Albania is difficult. She spoke about a personal example during the negotiations, when an MP told her a new social contract is what is needed in Albania. The EU ambassador reminded the MPs of the fact that those elected are the ones who should sign the contracts with the citizens. She listed two main pillars on which the dialogue should be based for the new social contract. The issue of Albania in Europe and European Albania asks for dialogue. I do not know why, but dialogue is the most difficult thing here in Albania. I am an ambassador, and I can only inform you about the chances that Albania loses if the judicial reform is not adopted. I am an ambassador. You are the ones who make the reforms. As for the social contract, I told the MP that is your duty. Two crucial elements are needed for dialogue. First, to think of what mistakes have been made and to avoid repeating them. And the second element is to have respect for each other, said the EU ambassador. Ambassador Vlahutin made the statement during an open lecture organized by the former Minister of Foreign Issues. The Vice Minister of Integration was also at the meeting. She also emphasized the need to adopt the judicial reform with consensus. The first U.S. ambassador to Albania, William Ryerson, a diplomat who strongly supported the newly established Democratic Party in the early 90s, now criticizes it. In a letter, Ryerson invites Democratic Party's members to vote on the judicial reform regardless of what their leadership dictates them. The message of the former ambassador was made public in the Albanian-American newspaper Illyria, with headquarters in New York. Ryerson's letter reads, "It is very disappointing to read that the opposition is being inflexible. I hope at least some members of the Democratic Party will find the courage to vote in favor of this reform, to vote in favor of the country's progress, and not to remain merely puppets of their leadership. If they will do so, I would convey my cordial congratulations to them. That's all for our English edition this evening. Please join us again Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. for your local news in English. My name is Mari, and on behalf of Aura News, thank you and good night.